Welcome to the deepest, darkest corner of your nightmares. No video or flashing lights to shock you awake, just the quiet terror of the unknown, lurking in the silence of your mind. Tonight, we're diving into a singular tale that'll chill you to your core. But before we plunge into the shadows, do me a favor, give that like button a tap, subscribe so you never miss a thrill, and drop a comment below. Let me know where you're listening from tonight. Now, sit back, close your eyes, if you dare, and let the whispers guide you. Your darkest bedtime begins, right now. Elias Carter had always been drawn to the mysteries of the past. A seasoned archaeologist with an insatiable curiosity, he spent decades chasing legends that others dismissed as mere myths. His fascination with ancient civilizations led him to Mesopotamia, where whispers of the Anunnaki and the lost planet Nibiru had intrigued him for years. During a routine excavation near the ruins of an unassuming Sumerian ziggurat, Elias uncovered a hidden chamber buried deep beneath layers of sand and time. The chamber's walls were adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to glow faintly in the dim torchlight. At its center lay a pedestal holding a series of gold plates inscribed with cuneiform, texts unlike any Elias had ever encountered. His fingers trembled as he brushed away the dust, revealing depictions of towering, godlike beings surrounded by humanity in chains. The plates hinted at a powerful artifact, a device capable of communication with the gods. The discovery was overwhelming. Elias could feel the weight of history pressing down on him as he realized the implications of what he had found. These weren't merely myths or allegories but records of a hidden history. The air in the chamber felt heavy, as though the ancient walls held their breath, waiting for someone to unlock their secrets. As he carried the plates back to his tent, a storm brewed on the horizon, and unease settled in his chest. He couldn't shake the feeling that his discovery had set something in motion, something far larger than himself. Later that night, as the wind howled outside his tent, Elias sat with a notebook, sketching the carvings he had seen. His mind raced with questions. Who were these beings? Why had their story been buried so deeply? The flickering light of his lantern cast long shadows, and for a moment, he thought he saw movement outside. Steeling himself, Elias stepped out into the cold desert night, but there was nothing, just the endless dunes and the storm clouds rolling closer. The following morning, the storm's fury had reshaped the dunes, erasing the footprints of the previous day's excavation. It felt as though the desert itself conspired to keep its secrets hidden. As Elias packed up his findings, the locals who assisted him refused to meet his gaze, murmuring warnings about disturbing what should remain buried. Their words haunted him as he made his way back to civilization, the plates hidden away in a battered trunk that felt heavier with each passing mile. Back at his lab in London, Elias pored over the inscriptions for weeks. The translations were painstakingly slow, requiring consultations with linguists and obscure Sumerian texts. The plate spoke of an ancient device known as the Ouroboros Gateway, a machine built by the Anunnaki to bridge the distance between Nibiru and Earth. According to the texts, the gateway had been dismantled eons ago, its pieces hidden across the globe to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. Elias' excitement grew with each breakthrough, but so did his paranoia. He began noticing unusual patterns, emails disappearing from his inbox, strangers loitering near his apartment, and odd static on his phone. His colleague, Dr. Miriam Hassan, urged him to be cautious, but Elias dismissed her concerns as mere coincidences. Yet, the dark circles under his eyes betrayed the toll his obsession was taking on him. His once meticulously organized workspace had become a chaotic maze of papers, books, and fragmented translations. Late one night, after hours of grueling work, Elias deciphered a crucial part of the text, a map pointing to Egypt as the location of the gateway's first component. The revelation sent a thrill through him, but it was quickly dampened by a sudden power outage that plunged his lab into darkness. The silence that followed was unnerving, broken only by the faint hum of his backup generator. A chilling voice crackled through his radio, you must stop." Elias froze, his heart pounding. The voice was distorted, almost mechanical, yet it carried an undeniable urgency. He scanned the room, his instincts screaming that he was being watched. Grabbing the plates and his notes, he decided then and there that he needed to act quickly. Whatever forces were trying to stop him, Elias was determined to uncover the truth. Miriam arrived at his apartment the next morning to find him packing hastily. "Elias, you look like you've seen a ghost," she remarked, her tone a mix of concern and exasperation. He shared the strange events of the night before, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. Though skeptical, Miriam agreed to help him, her own curiosity ignited by the mention of the Ouroboros gateway. Together, they began planning their journey to Egypt, unaware of the dangers that awaited them. Elias' newfound knowledge put a target on his back. Days after the mysterious warning, he discovered his office had been ransacked, with his research notes missing. A strange man in a dark suit began following him, always lurking just out of reach. The air around him felt charged with tension, and every creak of a floorboard or shadow in the corner of his eye made his heart race. Desperate to continue his work, Elias contacted Dr. Hassan for help. Together, they decided to leave for Egypt under the guise of a routine archaeological survey. The flight to Cairo was fraught with anxiety. Elias kept glancing over his shoulder, his nerves frayed from the constant sense of being watched. Miriam, ever the pragmatist, tried to reassure him. "We're chasing history, Elias. Not ghosts," she said, her voice steady but tinged with concern. Despite her words, she couldn't ignore the unease that had settled over their journey. Unbeknownst to them, their movements were being tracked by a secretive organization known as the Watchers. The group's origins traced back to the ancient world, their ancestors enslaved by the Anunnaki and tasked with keeping humanity's secrets safe. Their leader, Armand Vale, was a man of unshakable resolve who believed Elias' actions could unleash catastrophe. He watched their flight's progress from a dimly lit control room, his fingers steepled as he murmured, "He's getting too close." As Elias and Miriam delved deeper into the desert, they encountered cryptic warnings left behind by previous seekers. A village elder spoke of a curse tied to the artifact, his eyes clouded with fear as he recounted tales of those who had vanished without a trace. Others shared stories of glowing lights and voices from the sand, whispers carried on the wind that seemed to beckon travelers to their doom. Despite the dangers, Elias' determination only grew stronger. He felt as though the answers he sought were just within reach, hidden beneath the shifting sands. One night, as they camped beneath a canopy of stars, Elias shared a fragment of the plate's translation with Miriam. The passage described the Anunnaki's departure and the Watchers they left behind to guard humanity. "What if those Watchers are still here?" he mused aloud. Miriam's silence spoke volumes, her gaze fixed on the horizon where distant lights flickered like will-o'-the-wisps. "Let's just find the artifact and leave," she whispered, the weight of their quest finally sinking in. The deserts of Egypt held secrets that even seasoned archaeologists dared not disturb. Guided by the map's coordinates, Elias and Miriam discovered a collapsed temple buried beneath dunes. The air was dry and thin, carrying with it a sense of foreboding as they worked tirelessly to unearth the entrance. After days of excavation, they uncovered a hidden chamber lined with hieroglyphics and symbols alien to Egyptian culture. At its center lay a crystalline artifact pulsating with a faint, otherworldly light. The artifact was mesmerizing, its surface shimmering with colors that seemed to shift and dance like liquid metal. As Elias reached out to touch it, an overwhelming flood of vision struck him. He saw towering figures with elongated heads and glowing eyes overseeing massive construction projects. He saw humanity toiling in servitude, their cries for freedom silenced by the Anunnaki's unrelenting rule. The images were vivid and raw, each one searing into his mind with a painful clarity. Miriam pulled him back, her voice distant and panicked as he struggled to regain his senses. But their triumph was short-lived. As they prepared to leave, the ground trembled, and the chamber's walls began to collapse. The air filled with the sound of grinding stone and distant, echoing roars. Shadows moved in the distance, and gunfire erupted as mercenaries ambushed them. The attackers' faces were obscured by masks, their movements precise and calculated. Elias and Miriam barely escaped with the crystal, fleeing into the night as their attackers gave chase. The desert, once a place of mystery and wonder, had become a battleground. The crystal's faint glow served as their only guide as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Every step felt like an eternity, the sound of their pursuers growing louder with each passing moment. When they finally reached their vehicle, Elias glanced back one last time. In the distance, the temple's remains were consumed by an unnatural light, as if the earth itself sought to reclaim what they had taken. As they sped away, a chilling realization settled over them. They were no longer just uncovering history, they were a part of it. Elias and Miriam returned to Cairo shaken but resolute. They decided to analyze the crystal in secret, using advanced imaging equipment at a secure facility Miriam had access to through an old university connection. The artifact, when scanned, emitted a strange, oscillating frequency that defied conventional understanding. Elias believed it was a key, a catalyst to activate the Ouroboros gateway. Miriam, however, remained skeptical. "We don't even know what we're dealing with," she argued, but Elias' obsession had reached a fever pitch. One night, Elias activated the crystal. The lab filled with a low, humming vibration that seemed to resonate in their very bones. The lights flickered, and the air grew heavy, as if reality itself had thinned. In that moment, the crystal emitted a beam of light, piercing through the ceiling and disappearing into the heavens. Elias stared in awe, but Miriam's face was pale with fear. "You've done it," she whispered, her voice trembling. But at what cost? Unbeknownst to them, the activation had sent a signal far beyond Earth. Within days, strange phenomena began occurring across the globe. Orbs of light hovered in the skies, moving with unnatural precision. Reports of unidentified aerial phenomena flooded the media, igniting both awe and panic. Governments scrambled to explain the inexplicable, while conspiracy theorists declared it the return of the gods. Elias watched the news in silence, a mixture of triumph and dread churning within him. He had succeeded in unraveling a piece of humanity's forgotten past, but he couldn't ignore the growing unease that the crystal had unleashed something far beyond his control. The global disturbances caught the attention of the Watchers. For centuries, the secretive organization had guarded humanity's fragile balance, ensuring the ancient Anunnaki secrets remained buried. Armand Vale convened an emergency council in a shadowy underground bunker. "The signal has been sent," he announced grimly. "The gods will return." The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over the gathered operatives. The Watchers knew what the orbs represented, advanced reconnaissance sent by the Anunnaki. If left unchecked, the return of these celestial beings could mean enslavement or annihilation for humanity. Vale issued a directive to track Elias and Miriam, believing them to be the unwitting catalysts of this unfolding crisis. Elias and Miriam, meanwhile, had gone into hiding, moving between safe houses while attempting to decipher the next steps in their journey. The crystal's activation had revealed a second set of coordinates, this time pointing to the Andes Mountains in South America. Miriam pleaded with Elias to abandon the quest, but his resolve was unshaken. "We've come too far to turn back now," he insisted, his voice filled with a dangerous determination. As they prepared to leave Cairo, their safe house was raided by Watcher operatives. A tense standoff ensued, with Elias and Miriam narrowly escaping through a hidden passage. The encounter left them rattled but more determined than ever. The Watchers' presence only confirmed the importance of their mission. Yet, the closer they came to uncovering the truth, the more perilous their journey became. The journey to the Andes was fraught with danger. Traversing the rugged mountain terrain, Elias and Miriam followed the crystal's guidance to an ancient, abandoned city shrouded in mist. The city, known only in legends as Paititi, was a sprawling complex of stone structures carved with symbols similar to those on the plates. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the distant cries of Andean condors. Within the city's heart lay a massive stone gateway adorned with glowing, crystalline fragments. Elias' heart raced as he realized this was the Ouroboros gateway's central hub. As he placed the artifact into the gateway's receptacle, the structure hummed to life, its ancient mechanisms grinding and clicking with a mechanical precision that seemed impossibly advanced. A portal began to form, shimmering like liquid mercury. But their moment of triumph was short-lived. The Watchers had tracked them to Paititi, and a fierce confrontation erupted. Armand Vale himself confronted Elias, pleading with him to stop before it was too late. "You don't understand what you're unleashing," Vale shouted, his voice echoing through the ancient city. Elias hesitated, torn between his insatiable curiosity and the warnings of a man who seemed genuinely afraid. In the chaos, Miriam was captured, and Elias was forced to make a fateful choice. As the portal stabilized, the crystalline artifact shattered, sending out a shockwave that knocked everyone off their feet. The gateway flickered, its energy waning. Elias dove into the portal just as it began to collapse, his fate unknown. The world stood still in the aftermath of the portal's activation. The orbs in the sky grew more numerous, their movements becoming increasingly deliberate. Governments declared states of emergency as humanity braced for the unknown. Miriam, now a prisoner of the Watchers, was interrogated relentlessly about Elias' actions. Despite the fear and uncertainty, she remained steadfast, believing Elias' sacrifice had a purpose. Armand Vale, too, was left to grapple with the consequences. The Watchers' centuries-long mission had failed, and the gods they feared were on the brink of returning. Yet, Vale couldn't shake the feeling that Elias' journey wasn't over. The crystal's fragments still held power, and the plates hinted at a greater purpose for the Ouroboros gateway. Elias awoke in a realm unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering structures of light and energy stretched endlessly into a sky filled with shifting, iridescent hues. He was no longer on Earth, but a place that felt both alien and familiar. Figures emerged from the light, their forms radiant and otherworldly. They were the Anunnaki, and they regarded Elias with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "Why have you summoned us?" one of them demanded, their voice reverberating in Elias' mind. He explained humanity's search for its origins, his words driven by equal parts awe and desperation. The Anunnaki listened in silence, their expressions unreadable. Finally, they spoke of a reckoning, a time when humanity would have to prove its worth to survive the return of its creators. Elias pleaded for mercy, for guidance, but the Anunnaki's response was cryptic. The choice was never ours to make. Humanity's fate lies in its own hands, they intoned before the realm began to dissolve around him. Elias felt himself falling, the light fading into darkness. Elias awoke in the ruins of Paititi, the shattered gateway silent once more. The crystal's fragments glowed faintly, their energy depleted but not gone. Miriam, freed during the chaos of the Watchers' retreat, found him amidst the rubble. Tears streamed down her face as she helped him to his feet. "What happened?" she asked, her voice breaking. Elias could only shake his head, the weight of his encounter with the Anunnaki pressing down on him. "They're coming," he said simply, his voice hollow. The orbs in the sky began to descend, their lights casting long shadows over the earth. The Watchers regrouped, their resolve strengthened despite their failure. Humanity stood on the precipice of a new era, its future uncertain. As Elias and Miriam prepared to face the challenges ahead, they knew their journey was far from over. The plates still held secrets, the crystal's power was not fully understood, and the Anunnaki's cryptic warning lingered in their minds. The reckoning had begun, and humanity's story was only continuing to unfold. As the orbs descended, each movement seemed deliberate, as if probing the earth for signs of its ancient stewards. Across the globe, governments scrambled to mount defenses, while secret organizations like the Watchers braced for an inevitable confrontation. Elias and Miriam returned to London with the fragmented crystal and plates, only to find their former allies either missing or compromised. The fragments pulsed faintly in Elias' hands, as if whispering to him, pulling him toward answers he wasn't sure he wanted to find. The plates now revealed a chilling clue, an encoded sequence that hinted at a second, dormant gateway hidden in an uncharted region of Antarctica. Antarctica, Miriam said, scanning the symbols with growing dread. If the first gateway was hidden to keep the Anunnaki away, why would they need a second one? Insurance, Elias replied, his voice barely above a whisper. In case they ever needed to come back, or to ensure we never left their shadow. Meanwhile, Armand Vale and his fractured Watcher forces worked tirelessly to decipher their own ancient texts, hoping to unlock countermeasures hidden deep within humanity's forgotten history. Time was running out as the Anunnaki's arrival grew imminent. Even Vale, with all his resources, could not predict whether the gods would return as saviors or conquerors. As the fragments of the crystal began emitting bursts of unintelligible signals, Elias realized they were sending a message, not to the Anunnaki, but to something else. The fragmented frequencies reached deeper into Earth's crust, resonating with dormant technologies buried for millennia. Elias, Miriam, and a reluctant group of allies prepared for a journey to Antarctica, a region shrouded in mystery and peril. They knew the answers awaited them there, but so did the risks. The Watchers, desperate to control the unfolding chaos, planned to intercept them, uncertain whether to ally with or eliminate Elias. As the sky above darkened with an unnatural storm and the orbs glowed brighter than ever, humanity teetered on the brink of revelation. Elias clenched the fragments in his hands, feeling the weight of history and destiny converging. This isn't just about the Anunnaki anymore, he said, turning to Miriam. It's about who we are, and who we choose to become. With that, the team set out, knowing that their next discovery might very well determine the fate of Earth, and the role humanity would play in the cosmic order. The storm in the skies above Antarctica intensified as Elias, Miriam, and their team made their final preparations for the journey. The cold was unlike anything they had ever experienced before. The frozen expanse stretched out endlessly, and the temperature dropped with every step they took. Despite the conditions, the team pressed forward, their mission clear: find the dormant gateway and uncover the final piece of the puzzle. The Watchers, meanwhile, were closing in on them. Their surveillance network, which had once been limited to the shadows of the world, had expanded. Armed with ancient knowledge and modern technology, they tracked the movements of Elias and his team with a relentless focus. Every step Elias took felt like a race against time, with unseen forces chasing their every move. But the gateway in Antarctica wasn't just a relic to be uncovered, it was a weapon, a symbol of humanity's potential for both destruction and salvation. The fragmented crystal they carried, its glow pulsing faintly, was the key to unlocking the secrets hidden beneath the ice. Their journey led them deeper into a labyrinth of ice caves, each passage more treacherous than the last. Strange carvings adorned the walls, similar to those found in the ruins of Paititi and Egypt. It became clear that the ancient civilizations had been linked, all connected by a greater, cosmic force that humanity had yet to understand. As they ventured deeper, they began to experience strange phenomena. The air grew dense, and electrical devices malfunctioned. The crystal began to vibrate in Elias' hands, responding to the environment around them. The further they moved into the heart of Antarctica, the stronger the crystal's resonance became. It was as if the very earth was awakening beneath their feet, responding to the key that Elias carried. Miriam, always cautious, couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "We're not alone," she whispered, her voice tense. Elias, ever the skeptic, didn't share her concern, at least, not yet. The deeper they went, the more intense the sense of impending revelation grew. In the darkest corners of the ice caves, they found symbols that hinted at a hidden power, not just of the Anunnaki, but of something far older. They had uncovered traces of an even more ancient civilization, one that predated the Anunnaki and possibly even Earth itself. It was in one of these hidden chambers that they made their first discovery. A massive stone door, covered in intricate glyphs, lay before them, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. As Elias approached the door with the crystal in hand, the temperature dropped to an unbearable level, frost forming on the walls and his breath turning to vapor. "This is it," Elias whispered, his voice filled with awe. He stepped forward, pressing the crystal against the door. The light from the crystal intensified, flooding the cavern with a bright, pulsating glow. The stone door began to rumble as though it were awakening from a long slumber. With a deep, resonating groan, it slowly began to open, revealing the heart of the ancient structure beyond. As the door creaked open, the team stepped into a vast chamber, its walls covered in glowing symbols and intricate murals. The air was thick with an electric charge, and the stone beneath their feet seemed to hum with energy. The gateway was not just a passageway, it was a massive machine, an ancient artifact designed to transcend time and space. The chamber's centerpiece was a colossal circular device, its surface covered in crystalline shards that pulsed with an almost sentient rhythm. The room was empty, devoid of any signs of life. But the silence was oppressive, as though something, or someone, was watching them from the shadows. Elias felt the weight of history pressing down on him as he approached the device. His mind raced with questions. What was this place? Who built it? And why had it been hidden for so long? As he examined the machine, the crystal in his hand began to vibrate more intensely, as if reacting to the ancient technology in front of him. He carefully placed the crystal into a socket at the center of the device. The moment the crystal made contact, the room was filled with a blinding light, and a deep hum resonated through the air. Elias staggered back, shielding his eyes as the light engulfed the room. When the light faded, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and ethereal, the being was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. It appeared humanoid, but its features were impossibly beautiful and unsettling. The figure wore a cloak of shimmering light, and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly intelligence. "You have awakened us," the being spoke, its voice reverberating in Elias' mind rather than through the air. "The time has come." Miriam stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Who are you? What is this place?" The figure tilted its head, as if considering her question. "We are the Silent Ones. We have watched over the earth for eons, waiting for the return of the key that would unlock the true power of the gateway." Elias felt his heart race as the implications of the being's words sank in. The Anunnaki? They were never the true masters? "No," the Silent One replied, "the Anunnaki were merely servants, caretakers of a greater power. They were the ones who enslaved humanity, but they were also bound by the will of those who came before them. We are the ones who shaped this world, and we are the ones who will determine its future." Elias, stunned by the revelation, struggled to find words. "What do you want from us?" The Silent One's eyes glowed brighter, a soft pulse of energy emanating from them. "You will have to prove your worth, Elias Carter. You and your kind have unlocked the gateway, but it is not just a bridge to the past. It is a weapon, a tool to reshape reality itself. If humanity is to survive the return of the Anunnaki, you must choose how to wield it." The being's form began to fade, its words lingering in Elias' mind. The reckoning is not just a battle for survival, it is a choice. A choice between the future of your species and its destruction. As the figure vanished, the humming of the gateway grew louder, its crystalline shards pulsing with an unsettling intensity. Miriam stepped closer to Elias, her face pale. "What did it mean? What are we supposed to do?" "I don't know," Elias replied, his voice heavy with the weight of the revelation. "But I think we've just unleashed something far more powerful than we ever realized." The Watchers were not far behind. They had been tracking the team's movements since they entered the ice caves, and they knew that the moment Elias activated the gateway, the world would change. Armand Vale, now leading the fractured remnants of the Watchers, had prepared for this moment for centuries. He had always believed that the Anunnaki's return would spell the end of humanity, but now he understood that the true danger lay in the power that Elias had unlocked. The Silent Ones were a force beyond anything the Watchers had ever anticipated, and they had no intention of allowing humanity to wield such power. In a secret underground facility, Vale gathered his forces. The ancient texts spoke of a way to stop the Gateway's power, but the knowledge was incomplete. With each passing day, the situation became more desperate. The Watchers had failed to prevent Elias from uncovering the truth, and now they had no choice but to act. Vale's plan was simple but dangerous. He would infiltrate the ice caves, destroy the Gateway, and ensure that humanity would remain in the dark about its true origins. He knew the risks. If the Silent Ones were allowed to fully awaken, the consequences could be catastrophic. But if he succeeded, he would be hailed as the savior of mankind. Elias, however, was already aware of Vale's plans. The crystal's fragments had begun to pulse with a new energy, sending out a series of erratic signals. He knew the Watchers were closing in, and he had no choice but to confront them before it was too late. As the storm outside intensified, the final confrontation loomed on the horizon. The fate of humanity, and the future of the Gateway, hung in the balance. The storm outside had reached a fever pitch, the howling winds battering against the walls of the ice caves. Inside, the team was preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Elias, Miriam, and the rest of the team knew that the Watchers were closing in, and they had to make a decision: protect the Gateway, or risk destroying the very thing that could shape the future of humanity. Elias stood before the massive crystal at the heart of the ancient structure, his mind racing. The Silent Ones had given him a cryptic warning, but what did it truly mean? He could feel the power of the Gateway intensifying, its energy surging through the walls and the very ground beneath his feet. "We can't let the Watchers destroy it," Miriam said, her voice determined. "This is our only chance to unlock the truth about our origins, to break free from the chains that have bound humanity for millennia." Elias hesitated, torn between the words of the Silent Ones and the realization that the power they had uncovered was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. If the Gateway could reshape reality, what kind of future would they be creating? Would humanity use it to build a better world, or would it descend into chaos? "We don't know what will happen if we activate it completely," Elias said quietly. "We don't even fully understand what we've uncovered. What if we're unleashing something we can't control?" "I don't think we have a choice anymore," Miriam replied, her voice firm. "The Watchers won't let us walk away. We have to use the Gateway, or risk losing everything." The team moved to the Gateway's central mechanism, each member grimly aware of the stakes. Miriam activated a sequence of symbols on the ancient device, her fingers tracing the glyphs with precision. The air crackled with energy as the Gateway began to hum louder, its pulsing glow brightening with every passing second. Outside, Vale's forces were closing in. His agents, a group of highly trained individuals, moved with stealth and precision through the ice caves. They knew the terrain well, having studied every inch of the area for years. They were prepared to do whatever it took to prevent Elias from fully activating the Gateway. As they neared the chamber, Vale's voice echoed through their comms, steady and cold. "Remember, we are not just fighting to stop them. We are fighting for the future of humanity. Do not fail." Vale and his agents moved through the winding corridors of the ice caves, their breath visible in the freezing air. They were close now, the faint glow of the Gateway's energy guiding them to the final confrontation. Vale's mind was focused, his resolve unshakable. The Gateway could not be allowed to remain active. The Silent Ones were too powerful, too unpredictable. He knew the Watchers' true purpose: preserving humanity's place in the world by preventing the rise of forces beyond their control. The Anunnaki had once dominated Earth, but the Silent Ones were something far older, and much more dangerous. Humanity had survived through the centuries not by knowledge, but by ignorance, by remaining blissfully unaware of the powers that had shaped their history. The Watchers had been tasked with ensuring that humanity would never again fall under the sway of these ancient forces. If Elias and his team succeeded, it would mean the end of the world as they knew it. Vale's agents reached the heart of the ancient chamber. They could hear the hum of the gateway growing louder, feel its presence in the air. There was no turning back now. Vale stepped forward, the weight of his decision heavy on his shoulders. "We stop this now," he muttered to himself. But as he approached the gateway, the ground beneath his feet began to tremble. The light from the device flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. Elias, Miriam, and the team had activated the mechanism, and the gateway's power was growing with each passing second. "Stop!" Vale shouted to his agents. "It's too late. We need to destroy it before it's fully activated." But his words were lost in the chaotic storm of energy now coursing through the chamber. The very fabric of reality seemed to bend and warp around them as the gateway's power reached its apex. Elias stood at the center of the chamber, his hand still resting on the crystal. The hum of the gateway was deafening now, and the walls around them seemed to pulse with an unnatural rhythm. The temperature plummeted further, frost creeping along the edges of the walls. For a moment, it felt as though time itself had frozen. "We have to make a choice, Elias," Miriam said urgently. "The Watchers are here, and they're not going to stop. If we don't do something now, they'll destroy everything." Elias looked around at his team, each of them staring back with fear and determination. The Silent One's warning echoed in his mind, their cryptic words lingering in the air. The reckoning is not just a battle for survival, it is a choice. Suddenly, a blast of energy shot from the gateway, striking the walls and causing them to crack. The storm outside intensified, and Elias could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was it. The choice was his. Vale and his agents stormed into the chamber, weapons raised. "Don't make a mistake, Elias," Vale shouted. "You have no idea what you're tampering with." But Elias had already made his decision. He stepped forward, placing his hand fully on the crystal, and the gateway responded with a deafening roar. The air was filled with a brilliant flash of light, and for a moment, it felt as though the entire world was collapsing in on itself. Then, the light faded, and silence fell. The chamber had transformed. The walls, the ice, everything had shifted. It was no longer just an ancient structure, it had become something else entirely. The gateway had opened a rift, a pathway to another dimension. Through it, Elias could see the vastness of the universe, galaxies, stars, and civilizations that existed far beyond Earth. But the truth was now clear, this was not the beginning of humanity's domination of the cosmos. It was the beginning of a reckoning. As Elias gazed into the rift, the truth became undeniable. The gateway had not just unlocked a portal, it had connected humanity to the vast network of ancient civilizations that spanned the universe. The Silent Ones had not been watching Earth for eons, they had been guarding it, protecting it from forces far more powerful than anything humanity had ever faced. The Watchers had been wrong. Humanity was not meant to remain ignorant of the forces that shaped their world. They were meant to rise, to step into the greater cosmos and claim their place among the stars. But with this revelation came a new challenge. The Anunnaki were not the only ancient race to have a claim on Earth. The Silent Ones were but one faction in a cosmic struggle that had been raging for millennia. If humanity was to survive the coming storm, they would need to stand together, face the darkness that was descending upon them, and choose their path. The Watchers, their mission now in jeopardy, retreated into the shadows. But Vale knew that their work was not done. The true reckoning was only just beginning. As Elias turned to face his team, he understood the gravity of the situation. There was no going back now. The power of the gateway was in their hands, but with it came a responsibility greater than they could have ever imagined. The future of humanity was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the world would never be the same again. With the gateway fully activated, Elias and his team stepped into the unknown. The rift before them pulsed with energy, a swirling vortex that beckoned them forward. The world they knew was gone, replaced by a vast and terrifying new reality. As they crossed the threshold into the rift, the universe unfolded before their eyes. Strange landscapes and alien worlds stretched out in all directions, their colors and shapes defying comprehension. The stars themselves seemed to speak, their light offering glimpses of ancient histories and forgotten truths. But as they ventured deeper into the unknown, they began to realize the true purpose of the gateway. It was not just a bridge to other worlds, but a weapon, a tool capable of reshaping reality itself. And somewhere, beyond the stars, the forces of the Anunnaki and the Silent Ones were already preparing for their return. The final chapter of humanity's story was yet to be written, but the journey had only just begun. And so, dear listener, another tale fades into the shadows. But remember, the darkness doesn't sleep. It only waits. If you enjoyed tonight's story, leave a like and share it with someone who dares to dream in the dark. Subscribe and make sure you hit the bell so you never miss when the next nightmare begins. Sleep well, if you can.